And that's what the car represents. Our freedom and our indomitable spirit. And no matter what they tell you with this EV stuff, being tethered to a plug will never be the same. And you'll get some guys that'll be okay with it. Most of us will tell you, nah, just not going to work. The thorn in the side of the EV, pointing out Dodge's hypocrisy. This is Rip Roaring Garage. I'm Alex, and we have a lot to talk about, so let's get into it. A lot of you guys may have seen this floating around, a lot of channels talking about this article. This specific one from Natural News. The new $4 billion Panasonic electric vehicle battery factory in Kansas will require so much power it needs its own coal plant. Of course, this could be labeled fake news and all that. So let's go to the horse's mouth. That's Panasonic. They break ground on the new EV factory in Kansas, in DeSoto, which is a shame because DeSoto has history. Dodge is all out on the whole reshaping its image of being clean and friendly to the little trees and critters and all that. And I'm going to show exactly why it's completely hypocritical. At the same time, I'm going to show how your Republican senators, congressmen, politicians are backstabbing you because they don't care what you believe. No, they're in on it too. Panasonic talks about the new facility, adding to critical. What critical? Where's this demand for EVs that makes this so critical of the domestic EV battery supply chain? And to talk about the 2170 cylindrical lithium-ion batteries to meet the surging domestic EV market demand. So you're going to get a lot of corpo speak, a lot of fluffery, a lot of BS. Mayor Rick Walker, DeSoto mayor, what's his party? Do we have that? So I'm not seeing any kind of political affiliation. Working hard for the city. BS from politicians saying they work for you and all that. It's no different than a drug dealer giving you a free taste, a free something, and then you're hooked for them, for life. So I'm going to call Dr. Feel-Good Rick Walker here because that's exactly what he's doing to the people of DeSoto. But let's go to some other articles. Massive EV battery may have to rely on coal for it to function, and they're talking about a factory in Kansas slated for closure. Instead, it will remain open so it can supply power. $4 billion Panasonic electric vehicle battery factory in DeSoto, Kansas will help satisfy the Biden administration to get everyone into an EV. Yeah, right. Nope. It's a $6.8 billion from the Inflation Reduction Act, which this does the exact opposite. It creates inflation. You're taking $6.8 billion, you're printing it, and now the dollar is devalued. So good job there. 250 megawatts of electricity to operate. That's what the Kansas City Star reports the factory will require. Their testimony to the City Corporation Commission, blah, blah, blah. So they're getting all the nitty gritty as far as what the city will need. Well, what the plant will need and what the city can provide. Lipstick on a pig. Kilowatts just don't fall out of the sky. So basically, they're trying to appease their voter base or their base in Washington, the environmentalists. Like, hey, we want to build EVs, but it's going to take coal. Now, I find it very interesting here. Oklahoma, OK Energy Today. It's an Oklahoma website, radio, whatever. And they're talking about how the new Panasonic electric vehicle battery plant being constructed in Kansas, the one that Oklahoma attempted to land but failed last year, reportedly will require so much energy, yada, yada, yada. So Oklahoma wanted this. Wyoming, Cowboy State Daily is a Wyoming publication. Wyoming wanted this, but Kansas got it. Wait a minute. Aren't these all red states that are kind of against EVs and the Inflation Reduction Act and all that, right? So you have your Republican politicians, mayors. I'm assuming this guy's Republican in DeSoto, Kansas, but senators and congressmen, and they represent you, right? The voter, conservative minded and so on. Everybody knows that this EV stuff ain't going to last. It's not a viable technology, not at scale. It's not scalable. You can have a little novelty car here and there, but it ain't going to work long term. Instead of just saying no, the short term is we need jobs. So what happens when this factory closes down? Well, what happens then? They're going to want you to pay the price because you get a job at a normal, let's say it's a normal factory, a car plant in Soto, Kansas. They're going to build engines there. You go there, you get a job, you get married, get a mortgage, 2.5 kids, all that stuff. You build a life. That's the kind of thing that when you lose your job, you get desperate. So if there's no more demand because this collapses, then what? They don't care. They don't care about you. They're willing to take that money, screw you over, and screw your environment for your kids because this stuff, we talk about, everybody talks about the problems with lithium-ion batteries, that they don't get recycled, they get burned in Angola, in Africa, or just buried in New Jersey somewhere. How about fabricating this stuff? What are the environmental impacts locally? You're not going to see this kind of stuff being done in New York or California. No. We got to keep those white women happy. That's why they're building a wall, because it affects them. When it affects you, screw you. Same with this. We're going to create jobs. Looks good on paper. Looks good for the campaign trail. You're the one that gets the crappy job that eventually is going to fail. Like so many other of these EV things. The only way, look at Rivian. Everybody's talking, Rivian this, Rivian that. Oh, it's a truck. It's a useless truck. You can't carry anything with it. It's not a work truck. It costs $90,000 freaking dollars and it has the build quality of a Lego set. And it's subsidized by you, by me, by all of us dumb schmucks. Do you see a problem with this? This is why I don't care about the Republican Party. They can go screw themselves. I'm done with this kind of backroom. This is a backroom deal. The same kind of stuff that Gates talks about with in regard to McCarthy, him being removed, which is surprising that it happened. History in the making. I did want to acknowledge that. But you got this kind of stuff. These mayors, these politicians in these states, Wyoming, Oklahoma, deep red states. And they're pushing for this stuff. I mean, look at their logo. It's an oil rig and a gas line. They're talking about assisting EV stuff that's supposed to replace them in the future. It makes no sense. How does it affect me as a Dodge guy? Well, this is a Stellantis plant. Stellantis, Panasonic, and BMW consider joint battery plant in the USA. From Electriv. And we all know how Dodge is going to sell. Nobody's going to want these cars. Nobody. You're trying to sell to enthusiasts, and we already made it clear in my last video that we won't even tolerate the straight six. I want to make a parenthesis here. It might seem like this is a first world problem. You're complaining about a 500 horsepower straight six. Well, boo-hoo-hoo. Kids in Africa are starving kind of thing. You don't get it. I was born in Jersey City. I was raised overseas, though. Schools back, private school was insanely expensive in Jersey City, and public schools were a joke. Crime was on the rise. Like, literally, I went to a Catholic school where the nun was charged with dealing crack. Can't make it up. So my parents sent me to the old country. I go there. I learned the language. When I came back, it was like I was an immigrant. I missed out on over a decade's worth of culture, politics, and whatnot. I'm not going to go into other things I've done fighting. You want to talk civil rights. You have no idea. People here don't know what governments around the world actually do to protesters. And I'm lucky to be alive. But that's another story. What I will say that I've loved cars since I was a kid. People there don't look at a car the way we do here. They look at it as a status symbol or something to get laid or get a woman's attraction. Look at the car I drive. Look at the BMW. Usually new cars, once it's old, out the window. Term of a classic car didn't apply for many decades. It's only recently you see a resurgence, not even a resurgence, a surge in the term classic cars in Europe. Most of these clubs they're very wealthy people bragging about what Ferrari 250 they had. I spent $4.5 million at auction on this car. The retro car thing, or the old timer they call them. There's enthusiasts out there, but doesn't hold the same meaning that it does for an American. Why? We connect the car with another period in history. It's very similar. Two factions, unreconcilable differences, North and South, red versus blue. After the Civil War, Lincoln, which already was seen by so many as a dictator. He called himself Dictatorus Americanus or something. I might look it up. He gave himself these dictatorial powers. And there were a lot of guys that said, screw it, I just want to be free. I just want to be left alone. And that's where the Wild West comes in. Because during the Reconstruction era, so many guys just said, grab a horse, go. 6-gun on your hip, and just do what you need to do to survive. Some go the outlaw way, some go, the pioneer way. And again, another parenthesis, outlaw didn't mean they were illegal, criminal. Outlaw just meant they were outside of the law. I am an outlaw to India. I'm outside of their legal system, so I'm an Indian outlaw. That's weird. So these men just want to be left alone. And this was a resistance to this forced compliance. Now, this sentiment was translated from the horse, the symbol of that autonomy. It transferred over to the automobile. The automobile itself has this history of bucking against the system, of anti-establishment, prohibition, right? Prohibition starts, and all of a sudden the car is the horse. It is what's used to outrun the law. Now, we're not talking about outlaw. Now they're breaking the law. But it's a law that was deemed later unjust. Because ultimately laws aren't synonymous with morality. They're not right or wrong. So many of these guys fought, and that's how we have NASCAR, even though they turned into garbage today. NASCAR was born of these guys, shine runners. They decided, we still like our cars. It's it's cool testing yourself as the driver, as the builder, as the modifier, and so on. And that's what the car represents: our freedom and our indomitable spirit. And no matter what they tell you with this EV stuff, being tethered to a plug will never be the same. And you'll get some guys that'll be okay with it. Most of us will tell you, nah. Just not going to work. I mentioned that straight six. I do want to cover a tiny little bit about this. Not a correction, an addendum to the last video. I don't have a problem with the straight six. I don't have a problem. I have a problem with what it's trying to represent, what it's trying to replace. This is that middle ground car. It's designed so we hate it, so somehow we're going to consider the EV. Now, this is what you got to see. The Roadkill Nights event. This was about a month ago. Streaming live. So this is the Woodward Avenue track, the drag strip.
That Motor Trend and Dodge are doing to bring this year.
Yeah, Motor Trend and Dodge, we know that. Okay, so here we go. At 38 minutes, this is where it kind of starts. Look at that Camaro. Look at that Olds. Those are the cars that were right before the straight six. Why is it that just before this run, this is what you saw? This is what was being transmitted live. Recordings, live stream will begin shortly. They actually start, and then they say, oh, oops, nope, let's go to commercial. There was a rain delay, fine. Rain comes back, and it goes to just random people talking. So this is the point where I tried to time it. I couldn't see any other cars because there is a portion of the footage where it's just the hurricane. And they cut to other people talking because it was too suspicious. People asking, hey, what's going on? Why is there a cut like there was earlier? They didn't want people seeing this online. They knew it was a disaster. I've had people email me that were there in person that said the car was a joke. People were booing, so they had to cut. And this is done on purpose because they want to get you into a Panasonic, not a Dodge. Remember when, is that got a Hemi in it? No, that's going to be, does that got a Panasonic in it? No. So I'm going to add some of these kind of random little Dodge tidbits. At the end of the videos, you'll see that kind of stuff. Also, remember, Speedboat t-shirts still available. But let's get to this cool video of a Daytona, a Dodge Charger Daytona. So this is from Fox 5, Dodge Daytona.
Into flames right after the driver gets inside. Take a look at this. This happened in Charlotte, North Carolina. A propane tank left in the back seat was not fully secured and leaked out into the air. When the woman got into the car, her cigarette ignited those fumes, causing the blast. Incredibly, she made it out of the car okay.
Look at the damage. That's... Damn. Why would you leave a propane tank in a frickin'... I don't even leave a lighter inside of a vehicle. People don't think just because there's a job out there and it's some guy with R after his name doesn't mean it might be the best thing for you, your community. Always remember to keep digging, just like we found out that this is a Dodge thing. This is a Dodge scheme. And they're going to use coal, even though they're touting to be all clean. I don't mind, but hey, you know, you want to play by those rules, then you live by the battery, you die by the battery. So I'm Alex, this is Rip Roaring Garage, where oil is thicker than blood. Hand me a like, and I hope you have a rip roaring day. You can have a little novel. You can have a nibble. You have a present thorn in Kaniskus' side, so you better subscribe. That's awful. It's tough being the thorn in the EV side, but this is the channel you want to subscribe. This is Rip. This particular plant, right? It's not mentioned in the current articles